It's the same person.
Right.
Alright, raise your hand if you think the right.
Well, who's that supposed to be?
Which one do you think would
The
show
same
up in your
person.
north?
Yeah, in the north.
Okay, so it's actually the one on the right. Right? So, one of the biggest things that polarizes people during this time isn't just the events happening, it's they're getting their news from where?
Secondhand.
Newspapers. Right? That's their only source of information. So that means everything in the north is going to be very biased towards the north. Right? Everything in the south is going to be vice versa. So if you opened up a newspaper in the north right after this, you would read about this respectable man in a suit talking about how he marched into this town to revenge the sack of Lawrence. If you did the same thing, opened up a newspaper in the south, you'd open up to a picture of this man, right? Right, crazy hair, crazy looking eyes, and it would talk about how this man brutally murdered 5 people just because a town was burned down.
Just because.
At the end of this unit, you guys are going to be have a little project. You're going to be doing a Twitter war between North and South for each of these events. Right? So think about especially not just the events that are happening, but the way that they would be polarizing people within the North and the South. Right? The Civil War doesn't happen because 2 governments are angry at each other. They happen because people passionately believe on both sides that they need to get involved. And so after John Brown does all that, and he comes back later, he causes even more problems. But for now, it sets off a civil war in Kansas. And this again isn't formal marching at the other side, it's guerrilla warfare. You're just attacking random people that live in the territory. It could be women, it could be children, it could be men, whoever it might be, everybody winds up involved in this civil war. About 200 people die just from May till September. In September, the president, Pierce, finally gets involved and sends in 1,300 federal troops and a new governor. Notice with this number, they sent more to redeliver Anthony Burns, to redeliver some of the fugitive slaves. So they sent more people to return a fugitive slave than they did to stop a civil war going on in this territory. Okay? The other important part about this date is September 1856. Why would Pierce send troops in September of 1856? What's important about that year? Election. Right? September, right? Very close to November of 1856. That is going to save the Democrats, and they're going to be able to win that election. Right? So it's all, again, political. But it gets worse. Okay? So violence doesn't just stick to Kansas. Well, they're arguing about which government to accept. Congress is also not going to be able to handle it. So around the same time that John Brown and all that's going on, Charles Sumner stands up in front of the Senate and he gives a famous speech called The Crimes Against Kansas. In it, he talks about how wrong it was regarding the fake popular sovereignty. But he uses very, very colorful language. He says murderous robbers from Missouri, right, went in and passed this vote. He talks about is the rape of a virgin territory compelling it to the hateful embrace of slavery. He goes on. He starts to personally attack certain people he believes are involved. One of these is Andrew Butler from South Carolina. Right? And of course, the Southerners are angry. But most importantly is the insults against this man. Butler has a cousin who's also in Congress, President Preston Brooks. And Preston Brooks decides he's going to avenge his cousin's honor. How did you normally avenge someone's honor? In a duel. Brooks is going to say he's not even worthy of a duel. He's below that. So instead, 2 days later, while Sumner is sitting at a desk, Brooks marches in and starts to beat him over the head with a cane. Now, the desk that Sumner was sitting at was bolted into the floor. So when when Brooks comes in, Sumner attempts to stand up to defend himself, but he gets caught under the desk. So he literally is, stuck under this desk as this man is beating him over the head, and he winds up unconscious and bloody, slumped over in the Senate.
Because he said
This
some
is in
mean
the
thing.
Senate chambers.
Like, are other people in there?
Chambers are it's like your separate
Oh,
office.
okay.
Oh my god, 3 years?
It takes Sumner 3 years to recover and return. He has lasting brain damage. Before this, he was one of the rising stars in Congress. After this, he can barely string together a sentence. Brooks makes a big show, and when he's censured by Congress, meaning he could potentially get in trouble, he resigns. But then he's unanimously reelected and gets away with everything. Okay? So then the reactions in the North and the South are going to make things worse. Okay? In the North, right, Republicans are going to get more voters, and you'll see why later. Right? Sumner becomes a martyr, and it proves to people how barbaric slavery is. In the South, obviously, the opposite result. They look at Brooks as a hero, as a man that was defending Southern honor. People go crazy for Brooks. You have women sending him love letters. People kind of like fangirl over him. They send him canes that are signed that says, do it again, do it again. And this lasts for months that he's getting basically these favors from people in the South. So, Kansas-Nebraska Act has already led to 2 issues when they tried to vote, right? It led to bleeding Kansas and bleeding Sumner. Right? So what we're going to do next, if you guys turn the page, we're going to do it together. Looking at that drawing, right, it's supposed to represent the Brooks-Sumner issue. So number 1, what is the meaning of the title? The title's on the top of your page. Yes.
It's like being sarcastic, saying that like this is the South's like chivalrous activity. That like chivalry means like that you're like courteous and respectful. So
Good, right? Chivalry was the big cultural aspect of the South coming to. That they were culturally advanced, that they were nice to each other, versus the North where everybody fought over jobs and wages and things like that. And at the top it says arguments versus clubs, right? Who has the arguments? The North versus the clubs of the South. So what are some of the things you see going on in the background?
Some people are smiling.
And people are smiling and laughing. What else do you see?
The fighting also.
Okay, good, right? There's another man with another cane in the back. Right, you see his desk destroyed. What does Sumner have in his hand? Good. What about this one?
Kansas. It says Kansas.
You got it, right, to represent his speech. What does Brooks have? Club. Okay. So, what does this represent? I mean, clearly it's also what happened, but. Okay, violence versus what? Reason. And using his words. Right? So, where do you think this was drawn? North or South? North. And how can you tell?
It demonizes books.
Right? You see Sumner on the floor, right, defenseless. So what is the overall message of this cartoon? Good. What made him become a barbarian? Slavery. Right? Look what slavery does to people, even to whites. Right? This is a man that can no longer use his words. He has resorted to violence like a barbarian. Okay? You have the North that still wants to argue, that still wants to, speak. They're in the Senate, right? That's supposed to be the center of democracy. And this is what's occurring because of slavery. So, tonight for homework, you guys turn the page, we're going to learn about all the different political parties. Okay? It starts on page 9, and the times you are listening to are written on the top. Okay? The second part of the lecture is in the back. Okay? That is your assignment over break, and there will be one more small part of the lecture to listen to, that I will post tomorrow. Okay?
I just wanted to talk about the audio and the visuals on in the beginning part of the lecture aren't synced. So it's like
Mixed
yeah,
to
it's
be
like
fibers.
it's like not bad. Like you could still like do it, but it's just like it's like weird.
Okay, I'll try to like.
Yes,
Oh,
I
no.
can do it then.
Yeah.
I just don't like to do it.
I